see that little spot in the middle? That little spot's an island, 3.5 by 7 miles long. And that little spot's between Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, and it had a history of piracy for over 300 years. And the name of that island is Mona Island.
Four men from a railroad in New York visited this island over 40 years ago to search for the buried treasure that will change their lives forever.
This is Paul, known as PK. Born in New York, raised in Czechoslovakia. Great artist and a great painter and a great helper. This is me, Ken, known as KF. I was the chief cook and bottle washer and also the carpenter and also the photographer. And I did just about anything. Wrong picture, is Claude, known as CF. He was the engineer genius. Created almost all of our equipment and flew a plane from Armonk, New York, all the way to Puerto Rico. Nothing but him and gasoline. And last was Timmy. Timmy was our financier. Timmy had a lot of problems. Well, after a year and a half of planning, it was finally time to pack it up and get to Puerto Rico. We built a box, 4 foot by 8, 2.5 feet high. In it, we had to put all of our equipment. And PK, the artist, was very good at filling everything in. We managed to get everything in there, but that thing was so freaking heavy. The time we got it done to put it on the back of a pickup truck, it took 6 guys to lift it up and put it there. Here's a piece of equipment that was built by Claude. It was a combination diving compressor, AC/DC generator, and water pump. That thing came in real handy. Well, the day finally came. It was time to leave. On a cold March winter day in Armonk, New York, Lee is getting ready for his first great adventure. Over 3,000 miles from New York to Puerto Rico. It stops along the way, but I believe it was Greater Norfolk Island. It was 550 miles of open water. Nothing but Lee and gasoline. In those days, you didn't have GPS, but you did have Loran, but you had to be close within 100 miles in order to get a mark on it. But he got in, and away he went. Well, we were all there in Puerto Rico waiting for Lee when he landed. When he got out of that plane, he was like a 92-year-old man. He couldn't even stand up, but he made it. Well, after a 10-day strike up in New York, a dock strike, we finally got our stuff. Lee and Timmy went by air, and Paul and I and the equipment went by boat, and we finally got to Mona Island. What a beautiful sight. Our trip out there by boat was quite an adventure. We had hired this captain who didn't speak any English with a 26-foot boat. Well, he wound up in Mayaguez on the end of a rickety dock about 100 yards long. That boat couldn't possibly hold our box, so we had to take everything out of the box, take it to the boat, put it down below, and shove the box on top. Then we threw our 16-foot boat across the bow, and in the middle of the night, we took off for Mona. Paul and I and 2 guys who didn't speak English. Well, after about 2 hours, you couldn't see land, you couldn't see nothing. Nothing but the moon and these iridescent little animals that was in the water down there that glowed in the wake. Pretty soon we realized we were hungry with all this confusion. We never ate. So Paul had packed something, and he found a can of beans. We put it on his inboard motor, and pretty soon it warmed up. Boy, that was the best can of beans I ever tasted. Pretty soon we could see a light flashing out there, and we knew it was the lighthouse of Mona. And we finally knew that this guy knew where he was going. What a relief. He just kept sailing with his foot on a rudder, saying, "It's okay, okay." That was his total English language. As soon as daylight came, there was Lee, buzzing us with the plane, and we were all finally on Mona Island. Well, the captain eased the boat through the Sardinera Reef, came into the dock, and we docked the boat. Here's a picture of that 16-foot boat that we brought out with us. Well, we started unpacking all our stuff on the dock. He had made a little wagon, which was very helpful because we had to take it up to the Ponderosa, which was a building that was built in 1925 by a CCC camp that was out here to develop forests. And it was about a quarter of a mile away. So we packed it all up, and we started up to the Ponderosa. Ponderosa was the main mess hall for that CCC camp. It had one big open room, then it had a storage area in the back, two other rooms. One room we screened off for sleeping, and the rest of it was wide open. But it was better than a tent. Here's a picture of the boat that we came out on. That thing was right down to the waterline. One wave would have sunk us for sure. And here we are on the deck of the Ponderosa, getting everything squared away and looking at our beautiful view. And everything was starting to be hunky-dory. Now, we were on the leeward side, which had all the beautiful sandy beaches. If you went south, you went to a place called Carabinero, and then from there you went on to Caigo or no Caigo. Then around the bend, you'd finally come to where the lighthouse was on the wayward side. The lighthouse was manned by 3 U.S. Coast Guard men, and every 10 days they changed and brought supplies in. That's the road that they used to go down to the dock, and that little thing in the bottom right is called a tubos. That was built by the mining company back in the 1800s. They had a railroad going through here. There were a lot of holes like this, entrances to caves. If you looked out, it would look something like this, or maybe something like that. They were all over the place. This island was honeycombed with caves. One day when Lee was flying around, he spotted this old Jeep. And he came back to the Ponderosa and told us about it. He said, "Boy, if I can get that Jeep here, I know I can get it to run." Well, we conned the Coast Guard men into towing that Jeep back to the Ponderosa. And when Lee got back from the mainland,
We told him we pushed it there, and he better get it going. Well, he took one look at that, started writing a list, and started flying out and flying back, getting parts. He worked on that sucker for about 10 days, and he got it going. Well, while they worked on the Jeep, I worked on the boat, cutting off one of the bows and making a transit for our motor. And pretty soon, they were almost complete with the Jeep, and I was just about complete with the boat. And guess what? The Jeep ran, and the boat didn't sink. It ran also. And boy, we had everything. Everything. We were ready to go treasure hunting. But then we decided we need to have showers. That's right, we have to build a shower. There was a 10,000-gallon cistern behind the Ponderosa, and Lee found a watering hole of fresh water. So we went with the Jeep and the water pump and started pumping water into that 10,000-gallon cistern. It took about 3 days, I think. And he filled it. Well, after that amenity was completed, we had just about everything. But there was one other thing we needed. You guessed it, an outhouse. So we dug a hole and built the building and put in a toilet paper, and the magazine. And now we had all the amenities that we needed. It was just like being at home. Within the caves of Mona, there were bats, thousands of them. That's what made the guano that the fertilizer company shipped out of here in the 1800s. There were large turtles there, all kinds of sea life. Here's a picture of a shark that we caught. And there were all kinds of insects there too. But most notably was the iguana. That sucker got about 6 foot long, and they were all over the place. We tried to photograph them several times. There he is in the middle. But they're very timid and shy, and they run like a son of a gun. Also brought with them goats and pigs, and their ancestors are still there today. People come from the mainland out to Mona to go hunting for wild boar and pigs. We had many visitors while we were out on the island. The people came to see the gringos, or the treasure hunters. We had many famous people. The owners of Don Q rum and the owners of India beer, they came out with their air-conditioned boats and their chefs. And boy, for 24 hours we did nothing but eat and drink in a nice air-conditioned comfort. I'll never forget that. And we had plenty of parties out there. There were people, when they came out for their hunting, they'd gather together at night and we'd have parties. They were wonderful people, and we sure enjoyed their company. Here's a picture of me doing a Sunday morning breakfast, and a very rare picture of all four of us enjoying that Sunday morning breakfast. Aside from the initial groceries that we brought out by boat from Mayaguez, we had to continually go in and get our supplies. Even our water had to come in from the mainland. So we would at least go in once a week and bring supplies back to us. That first grocery list was quite interesting. We went into a grocery store and we told the manager, for every can, we want a case. Well, little did we know that evaporated milk came 48 cans to a case, and we ordered 4 cases. When we left Mona Island, we left a lifetime supply of evaporated milk there. And I don't know about the rest of them, but it took me 20 years before I could eat canned Spam again, because that we had a ton of. One of our favorite drinks on the island was rum and coconut. Just climbed up a tree, knocked down a bunch of coconuts, sliced off the top, and put a little rum in it. They were delicious. One of many jobs that we did with the Jeep was resurrect Puerto Serena's airstrip. It was a small airstrip and it was close to the Ponderosa. And we had a big heavy chain and we rolled it back and forth and cut it down, and pretty soon we had a good airstrip. Next, we needed aircraft fuel. So we had the local fisherman, Daniel, bring in some aircraft fuel for us. We dumped it over and we rolled it up, and I built a pyramid for it, and pretty soon we had ourselves a gas stop. Sometime around the beginning of June, Timmy's condition became worse. Timmy grew up in the Bronx, lived on top of a bar, and daylight came in all the time. He never knew what darkness was. This really worked on his insecurity problems, and by June, it got out of hand. Timmy needed to go back home. So I was elected to take him back to New York, which I did, which is another story. However, I made arrangements with Lee. 10 days later, I'd be in Mayaguez, or there'd be a message there for him. 10 days later, we met in Mayaguez, and Lee had a shopping list as usual. We went into town, did the shopping, came back about an hour later, and as we come down to the airport, we saw that our plane was wrecked by a tornado, which they call a tromba marina down there. So now it was going to take 30 days to fix it, and we needed an airplane. So we shopped around and rented a little plane which we called Little Chucho. Well, this plane was due for every inspection known to mankind. The deal was $300 to rent it for a month with a $500 deposit. If you didn't return it, you bought it. It had no radio, no altimeter, no compass, no lights. It had nothing. It didn't even have a door on one side. Well, we took off and we went to our island where Paul was waiting for us, And when that thing got on the ground, I kissed the ground and never got back in it. But Lee did. He flew it back and forth until his plane was fixed. Didn't bother him in the least. Well, about now, half of the time was gone. Our plane was gone. Timmy was gone. We had little Chucho, and it was just the three of us. And it was time to go treasure hunting. This is about as close as Lee got to the water. Lee didn't go in the water. He'd fly a plane any place, but he didn't go in the water. He felt he didn't have control of his environment. On the other hand, Paul and I, we loved the water. You couldn't keep us out of it. Why, that reef, we must have swam it at least 100 times. Aside from scuba diving, we did a lot of snorkeling, and we did a lot of spear fishing. I remember once we speared a fish on the bottom, and a school of barracuda came in. They must have been about 20 inches long, but there was at least 30 across and 30 deep, and they just surrounded us like a bunch of Indians. Paul and I slowly drifted to the top, and in one scoop, we were in the boat. I don't know how we got there, but we were in the boat. It was absolutely breathtaking and frightening at the same time. Paul and I spent a lot of time underwater. It was absolutely gorgeous. I think the Reef Simona is truly one of the greatest treasures out there. We did a lot of spear fishing. We caught a lot of fish. Here's one I caught. Not the biggest, but it was good for dinner. Here's a collection of shells that we collected on Mona. Oh, those sunsets. Our favorite phrase. Too bad there aren't some women around here to appreciate this stuff. Well, there was one lady that made it to the island, and her name was Margaret, and she was Paul's girlfriend. Well, Paul got a honeymoon cabin all set, and the day came when Margaret showed up. That night, Paul developed a temperature of 103 degrees, and the next morning, Lee had to fly him into the mainland. Well, it turns out he had to get his tonsils out. But the infection had to go down first, and it was going to take a week. Well, my job was to entertain Margaret for the week while she was there, and that I did. It was a tough job, but someone had to do it, and I rose to the occasion. There came a time in the 5 months that we were out there that we had to do our laundry. So we went out and bought the best that money could buy. And we did our laundry. I know it's out of focus, but it was a $10 camera. We didn't know it till we got back. This is priceless. I couldn't cut this out. Let me take a second. Well, as I said at the beginning, this is a treasure hunt, and we're going treasure hunting.
Then suddenly it happened. Lee called me over. I came over and started laughing. Wow, 100% reading. Oh man, we got the data. Where's the shovel? Give me the shovel. All right, we're going at it. This is it. We're going to find the muddle load. What? What's this? What is it? Huh? It seems like the people who were here in the 1800s buried their garbage and we found it all. Oh well, let's go to another site. The area we're in now is Puerto. There was a doctor who was out here and he used to dig holes and shore up with 55-gallon drums and then dive down in it. His theory was Puerto 100 years ago or so, it wasn't, and there were shipwrecks underneath, and that's what he was looking for. Well, the guy went completely crazy. This island has a history of people going crazy on it. We heard all the stories. But we're all right. We're still here. Well, we kept going from hole to hole, setting our equipment up, and checking them all out. And then, lo and behold, we got ourselves a terrific reading. 100% again. Get the shovels. Come on. We got the mother lode this time. What is it? Salt water. It seems that these machines can't tell the difference between salt water and gold. Oh, well. Let's go to a cave. Yeah, that's where the mother lode is. Let's go to a cave. Well, we went all the way over to the other end of the island, docked, got our wagon out, put in the generator and all our photography equipment, the lights and everything that we'll leave in this cave. We started heading up to this huge cave. This cave was so big you could almost take a plane off and land in it. And inside we went.
Well, we spent the whole day in there. It was beautiful, with our huge lights lighting it all up, the stalactites and stalagmites, and all the different crystals, all the different colors. It was absolutely spectacular. The caves are truly one of the magnificent jewels of Mona Island, and part of the treasure of Mona. Oh, those sunsets. So many of them, so beautiful. It was a shame there wasn't any girls to appreciate it. But you can appreciate it now. You are some. Well, pretty soon the time had come for us to leave. And we packed up all our stuff, brought it down, Tano's boat took it all back to the mainland. All the treasures of Mona, the seashells, and all the memories were all packed and ready to go home. Wait a minute. This can't be the end. We were out here for 5 months. There must be a treasure here. Paul and I went back on the railroad, and Lee disappeared for 30 years. When I retired in 1998, I found him out in Colorado. He had traveled all over the world, doing what he loved, flying cargo from one island to another. And in 1983, he got out of the plane and said he was never going back. And that's what he's done. He bought himself 15 acres out here in Colorado. And he got a hold of a couple of railroad boxcars and put them out there. Then he got himself a Volkswagen camper. And in fact, he got two of them. He welded them together, and that's his bedroom. He's been sleeping in that for 25 years, and he loves it. In one of the boxcars, he built a beautiful bedroom, a beautiful bed, and then separate shower quarters and desks and what have you in it. But he doesn't use it. He says that's for guests. This is Lee's fun. He's got the rest of the boxcars filled with machinery and tools and parts. And he bought a house for the winter in Arizona. And he bought a 4-bedroom and 4-car garage, and he's filling that one up. This is Lee's treasure. He loves to make things. He built himself an electric car, and he's got a wind generator he's installing, and he's going to make his own electricity. And he's happy as a pig, and you know what. He sits in that boxcar every night, and the wind blows through, and I think he thinks he's back on the railroad. Now, Paul went back on the railroad for about 5 or 6 years, and then when Penn Central came along, he took a buyout. He went to school, I think, of visual arts, and became a cinematographer. And he traveled all over the world making motion pictures independently. He then wound up in Penn State, teaching there until his retirement. He was married for about 20 years. He had 1 daughter and I believe 3 grandchildren. He lives there in Penn State now, and he's happy as hell. He loves his wood carving and his painting and his memories. That is his treasures, and also the young girls at Penn State. I went back on the railroad also and took a job at a marina, managing boats and fixing them up, which I love to do. And Paul and I got together and we decided that we were going to go to motion picture school. Seems like I Search for Adventure said if we could get a few more scenes, they might be interested in it. So we decided to enlist in this school and get educated. But, as it would be, while we were there, Paul met Judy, and I met Betty. She was a school teacher, and boy, she knew how to get up and down and find things. And she found it. Well, in a very short time, things were getting serious with Betty and I. I got more serious with my photography, did experimenting and what have you. And the next thing you know, I was engaged. Engaged to be married. And married I was, July 11th, 1964. Our first apartment was an old tap-in, the smokehouse converted. Beautiful. All 1 bedroom, 1 room. Then, July 29th, 1966, along came Virginia Ann Mackey. And that was wonderful. On August 9th, 1968, along came Sharon. And now we had 2 beautiful girls, and everything was hunky-dory. After Jenny was born, we bought a house in Milford, New Jersey, and I built a studio downstairs, and really got serious in photography, making money. Then I bought a studio in Westwood, New Jersey, and we named it Mackey Studio. After a couple years, I renovated it, moved it upstairs, and we had one of the best looking studios in Bergen County. It was beautiful. You went up the stairs, and it was like walking into a home. And it created a great environment for people to shop for photography and framing. On October the 6th, 1970, along came Kenny. And then there was 3. On April the 26th, In 1974, along came Joe Willie. And then there were four. In 1976, on my 40th birthday, we decided to sell the studio. We sold it to two photographers that worked for us, bought a motorhome, and looked for a new place to live. A vacation home, somewhere in the country. That led us to Sherman, Connecticut, in beautiful Squance Pond. We found a house up there in the beautiful town of only 2,000 people. 100 yards away was the water for water skiing and ice skating in the winter. It was beautiful. You could even ski down the side, sleigh riding. It was wonderful. We lived there for 20 years and enjoyed every minute of it. We made many trips with that motorhome. In 1979, we made a trip west of 10,000 miles in 6 weeks, taking in all of the state and national parks. It was beautiful. Well, in 1998, it was time to retire. Time to get out of the cold winters of the north and move south to Spring Hill, Florida. Timber Pines, what a wonderful place. All the amenities you ever need. And our children visit us there, and even two of our girls live down here in Florida now. And it's wonderful. Nothing but golfing, bocce, fishing, pool, anything you want to do, it's here. It's just beautiful. Shark got that one. So far we have 2 married and 1 grandchild. Alexander. He's just about 6 right about now. My greatest treasure was meeting Betty. Betty is the greatest treasure of them all. And with Betty, all this came, and it was wonderful. A lot has happened to Mona in the 40 years since we've been there. I've been able to go on the internet and get some pictures and some information about it. It's definitely a park since 1997. It's protected. They've rebuilt the airstrip completely, and they also have electricity and houses out there. And there's even advertisement in Puerto Rico where you can go out for dives and camping out there. Look at all those boats down there. It looks like a regular parking lot. But the beauty of Mona still exists. They can't change the water. It's still exactly the same. Beautiful. There was a ship that drove over by the wayward side that went on the ground and wound up, I don't know if it's still there or not, but here's another picture of it. It looks like it's still there. And Hurricane George did a number on the island, and I imagine some others did, but they've rebuilt it, and people come from all around and visit it, but a lot of it looks the same. There's the lighthouse way out there. The lighthouse has been abandoned since the 70s, I believe. The animals are still there, still playing. Plenty of iguanas are still there, along with the hermit crabs and all the beautiful seashells that's on the island. People still come to explore the caves of Mona. Thousands of them. Thousands of caves. And the ghosts of Mona's past still is there. Our trip was monumental. It was an experience the three of us will never forget. All of the beautiful sunsets, all the beautiful adventures that we had on Mona is something that we'll carry with us for the rest of our lives. It was a beautiful trip. The three of us, we dreamt the dream, we walked the walk. We did it. And it was wonderful.
I believe through life there are many paths to take, many different trails to follow. And each time you follow one of those trails, it changes your life. The treasure hunt of Mona changed our lives. The true treasure of Mona were the new paths that we went down to change our lives forever for the better.